that came into town, entertainers like Sam Cooke, Dinah Ross and the Supremes, the Four Tops and the Temptations. I would drive them all over Miami Beach in the disc jockeys' cars.
But at the end of the day, the essence of what I just said, you have to be addicted to bettering yourself.
Here's a third difference between character and charisma that's particularly important in a leadership situation. Charismatic people have to keep pulling rabbits out of the hat.
I kept going, lose or when I kept going, and then it really started to click. What he was telling me was he didn't have anything to tell me I cannot. I can't sugarcoat this. Ass woman, it is what it is. You're going to take your lumps, but if you keep going, if you don't quit, you're going to get better. You're going to get better and you're going to get better. Because you're going to not only see why you're coming up short and get smarter and incorporate these things in your training to get better. You're going to get stronger. You're going to know that you got to, weightlifting, a little different program. You got to stay with it. You just have to get a little older.
Finally, one day I was at the radio station and a guy by the name of Rock was drinking while he was on the air. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was the only one there. None of the other jocks were available. And I was looking at him through the control room when pretty soon the phone rang. It was the general manager. I said, hello? He said, Les, this is Mr. Klein. I said, I know. He said, Rock can't finish his program. I said, I know. He said, would you call one of the other DJs to come in? I said, yes, sir. I hung the phone up. I said, now he must think I'm crazy. I called my mom and my girlfriend, Cassandra. I said, y'all come out on the front porch and turn up the radio. I'm about to come on the air. I waited for about 20 minutes and I called him back. I said, Mr. Klein, I can't find nobody. He said, young boy, do you know how to segue the records? I said, yes, sir. He said, go in there and don't say nothing here. I said, yes, sir. I couldn't wait to get behind those controls.
Honestly, be addicted to bettering yourself. Not for anybody else or anything else. You have to be addicted to bettering yourself if you want to achieve the level of success that you ultimately want to achieve. At some point in life, we're all going to struggle. And I think that's what you're getting to. We're going to be confronted with something. There's going to be some obstacles that we feel that, we can't overcome. Or when you're on your path to success, there's always going to be those roadblocks here and there. It's a part of life. And I think that's what's so rewarding when we do achieve what we achieve.
I put the headphones on. I said, look out, this is me, LB, Triple P, Les Brown, your platter playing papa. There were none before me and there will be none after me. Therefore, that makes me the one and only. Young and single and love to mingle, certified, bona fide, indubitably qualified to bring you satisfaction, whole lot of action. Look out, baby, I'm your love man. I was hungry. It makes you feel better when you are able to have charge of your destiny, doesn't it? Gives you a good feel. Gives you choices. You can do more things. Living a dream, changing your life, is hard. It's hard when you lose all your money, when you've given it the best that you have, when you have some major setback. It's hard. When a doctor looked at me and said the three horrible words no one wants to hear, you have cancer. It was hard to mobilize my mind and spirit, to listen to tapes and music and read scripture and be around other people and seeking out other.
Because of those failures, because of those struggles, because of those roadblocks can come in different forms. It can be your own mental roadblocks. It could be just outside criticism. It could be media. It could be anything. It could be personal problems. It could be family problems. It could be something as simple as you driving, you get a flat tire. Anything can trigger you and to try to get you off track. Those are struggles. And then just from an athletic standpoint, that's going to happen. And it's really how you respond to it. Whether it's in business, personal, it's in sports. But at the end of the day, we're all going to struggle. I struggled, but I didn't quit. And that's what I encourage a lot of people to do. Just don't quit. Just don't give up. That's what I would say.
I always reflected on that so anytime it got hard, especially in basketball, I just say, hey, keep going, don't stop, keep going. And so, although simple, that definitely ended up being one of the best pieces of advice that I got in my career. You watch basketball, you hear about how clutch people are, and it's not always making the last shot. It's under pressure, doing what you're supposed to do and coming out unsuccessful. So sometimes it will be a big rebound, sometimes it would be an assist, sometimes.
The magic of their presence has got to keep expressing itself, or people might start wondering where it went. Worse yet, they might start getting bored. One of the biggest pitfalls for a charismatic leader comes straight from his or her ability to inspire love and devotion. And this is the last point I want to make. In order to bask in the warm glow of a leader's approval, people may become reluctant to voice disagreements. There are people who become isolated because subordinates are afraid of them. But the same isolation can occur as a result of misplaced affection. People of character are usually well loved by everyone around them.
But as an over-level goal, I'm trying to reach fulfillment. I'm trying to live a joyful life. Okay, that's the point of fulfillment. If it were going to bring me joy to sit and wallow in what a loser asshole I am, then I would do it. But the reality is that it doesn't. It works just enough to get me moving. But once I'm moving, now I need to remind myself of all the potential that I have. That's a step in the journey of improvement. That improvement is a foundational pillar of human happiness. That I need to be making progress in order for me to attain fulfillment. That to get fulfillment, I've got to build a set of skills really hard. That there is a subconscious process in my brain rewarding me for doing hard things. So here I am. I'm doing one of those hard things, getting over that problem. So I don't stay there. I don't allow myself to stay in the negativity and the pain and the suffering, but I do leverage it to get myself moving.
It would be defense, sometimes. It would be. Not making a fuss if coach sucked me out. Anytime I hit big shy mean. Everyone would be just like, wow, I would be surprised if I didn't make it. I put the work into this like every day, all day, and then when I'm done with it, guess what I do? I dream about it. I visualize it. I see myself being successful. I see myself hitting those shots with no time on the clock, with a little time on the clock, and then I'll do it again and say, hey, what if we're down 2? Then I'll do it again and say, what if we're down 3? It's a never-ending game.
But they make it clear that their own first love is for the truth, even if it hurts. I'd like to elaborate a bit on a comparison I made earlier about how creating your character is like an artist creating a sculpture. The essential point is this: I don't think character is something that just happens by itself, any more than a chisel can create a work of art without the hand of an artist guiding it. In both instances, a conscious decision has been made. A conscious process of design is at work. Character is the result of hundreds and hundreds of choices you may make that gradually turn who you are at any given moment into who you want to be. If that decision-making process is not present, you'll still be somebody. You'll still be alive, but may have a personality rather than a character.
Now, if you're going to err on either side, err on the side of over-soothing yourself. Because let me tell you, all the achievement in the world is going to be absolutely fucking meaningless if you had to beat yourself into emotional oblivion to get yourself to take action. So remember, the point of all of this is a joyful life. When you hear me talking about how hard I work, that I focus on my inadequacies, all of that, I do it in a way that elevates me, that makes me feel better about myself, that brings more joy to my life, because I never feel trapped by who I am today. I feel completely liberated by the fact that I can become someone better tomorrow by putting in the work today. Just that little bit of suffering to get yourself moving, a little bit of focusing on the pain that you fucked up, that you could do better, that you expect better. But then it's on to focusing on progress, putting in the work, and being proud of yourself for doing that.
I was successful in those situations. I would always let people know. It's through dedication, through your hard work, and through mental preparation and visualization. If you do those things, if you can see yourself being successful in your mind, then it will appear in the physical reality if you're calm and collected when you get the opportunity, or sometimes we get the opportunity and we rush it. You have to have total commitment and dedication, and you have to have faith too, because I've worked hard enough to be in this position. I'm going to let my training kick in because I've been here before.
Anyone that wishes to have power over others, anyone that can do things to people and have no empathy for the consequences, is themselves in a tiny box of perception. what the Illuminati and what the manipulators have done, and they've done it brilliantly, I have to say, because they may not be wise, but they are clever on an intellectual level. Cleverness without wisdom is the most destructive force on earth. That's why we are in such a state that we're in. You know, it's very clever to know how to build an atomic bomb, but it's not wise to do so. There is a difference between cleverness and wisdom. But on an intellectual level, they're very clever. And what they've done is manipulate humanity through the suppression of knowledge and these other means into a smaller box than they're in. But we have the potential to get out of the box. Well, they have the potential too, but far less potential because they're so caught in this mentality that they're in of control. And what is control? Control is massive, massive insecurity. That's what these people are, the Illuminati and these reptilian entities and all the rest. They are consumed by insecurity and fear themselves. That's why they know how to manipulate fear and insecurity so well, because they're connected to it so powerfully. People who are insecure want to control everything because they're not secure enough within themselves just to go with the flow of life and see where it goes. Secure people don't need control over other people. Insecure people do. And I use this analogy a lot because it really kind of encapsulates it for me. Our natural state is not what we have been experiencing in known human history anyway. Our natural state is where we're going, and more people are opening up to. And I use this analogy like the natural state of a ball is floating on the top of the water, floating on the top of the tank or whatever. To keep it in an unnatural state, you have to push it down to the bottom of the water. I mean, you can't let it go. You have to constantly hold it there. And that's why, as I've been describing today, and I could describe a lot more, we have been subjected to multi-levels of suppression and manipulation from the things we eat, the electromagnetic fields we come into contact with, the way that we're manipulated through words, etc., and religion and belief systems. All those things are necessary to hold us in an unnatural state of being unconscious. And why are all those things necessary? Because we are amazing, infinite, eternal genius. And we've been held in this unnatural state. But, like I say, if you're going to hold the ball in the unnatural state, you've got to hold it there. Because the moment you let it go, woof, it's in its natural state, because that's where it will gravitate to immediately. And the moment we throw off the chains and the shackles of this manipulation and of this misunderstanding of who we are and where we are, then as we break those chains, those vibrational chains, we are going to become conscious by definition, because that's what we are. You know, people think, I've got to seek enlightenment. No, we are enlightened. That's our natural state.
The law of awareness says you must know yourself to grow yourself. James Russell Lowell, in your notes, no one can produce great things who is not thoroughly sincere in dealing with himself. What a powerful statement that is. You and I need to become aware of who we are, and we need to know what our passion is. We need to know what our purpose is. When people talk about themselves and trying to find themselves, I immediately talk to them about what is your passion, what is your purpose. Let me kind of walk you through this kind of quickly of how to figure this out, because this is so important in your awareness. The first question I would ask you about your passion is, do you like what you're doing now? Surprisingly, the majority of the people, when I ask them that question, say no. And this amazes me. I'll be just having a conversation. Hey, do you like your job? You know what? Most people say they don't. And sometimes they'll even look at me and say, well, you know, I don't really care for my job. What would you advise me to do? And then they don't like my advice, because when somebody tells me they don't like their job, I just immediately say, well, I'd quit. I have no idea. Now, please, maybe some of you can help me in the audience today. I have no idea why somebody would do something every day that they didn't like. This is beyond me. Why would a person go and do a job that they don't like and complain about it all day and call it life? And to be honest with you, I don't want to work beside them either. because it's bad enough for them to be miserable in their doing, but when they're miserable what they're doing, guess what they do to you? They make you miserable. Haven't you just been beside miserable before? You know what I'm saying? You kind of felt good, but by the end of the day, you felt bad. And you say, well, what did I do to feel bad? You sat with that person. You know what I'm saying? So when people say, well, I don't like my job, what kind of advice do you give me? This is an IQ test. Quit. Why would you, I'm still, it's beyond me. Why would you every day do something what is your passion? And yet I know people who literally spend their whole life, no wonder people look forward to retirement. They can hardly wait to get out. It's almost like prison. They're going to be free at last. The second question is, what would you like to do? Because there is a relationship between finding your passion and reaching your potential. That's a fact. What would you like to do? Let me just, since we're talking about personal growth, say that if you would have known me when I was in school, junior high and high school, I tell parents all the time, when parents are worried about their kids because their kids just seem to be goofing off, and they say, boy, my kids just don't seem to be buckling down. I always say, just relax, take a pill. Because if they would have seen me as a kid, as a parent, they would be greatly encouraged. Because when I went to school, it was nothing but a party. There was one wonderful thing about school was your friends. And I had a whole bunch of friends. And I didn't do studies. My study hall was going around visiting my friends. That was kind of like fellowship time for me. And I was playing ball and I was enjoying myself. And I didn't get good grades. And I just basically, I was smart enough to wing it and get through high school. If you just hang in and breathe, you get there. You know what I'm talking about. So it's not like a huge accomplishment. It's, can you just stick around long enough? They'll pass you. They kind of pass you up. You know what I mean? And my dad and I, we had these long talks. My dad and I have these long talks. He said, John, you just don't seem to be disciplined. You don't seem to be focused. You just want to play ball and be with your friends. And you're right. And I wasn't. When I went to college, it turned around immediately. Because when I went to college, I was going to get a do now and study for something I wanted to go do. And immediately I made the dean's list. Immediately I disciplined myself. Immediately I started studying. Wasn't really any problem. But can I tell you something? The reason I didn't do it in high school is because I wasn't getting what I wanted to get to go where I really wanted to go. In the moment, me being pragmatic, that I found that I got the subjects now and I could study. They were going to prepare me for the ministry. I got all excited, passionate, the whole process. So you got to ask yourself, what would you like to do? Because when you find what you'd like to do, that ignites your passion. And when your passion is ignited, that begins to increase your potential. That's when you start moving up the potential ladder.
The consciousness is not an object. You could never say, there it is. That's actually, Jesus said literally when they asked, when does the kingdom of heaven come, or where is it? Kingdom of the sky. You can never say, there it is, or it's over there. That's what he literally said. So you can't say the consciousness, this is the analogy, the sky is the consciousness. Not the only place where it's used. It's also used sometimes in Chinese, ancient Chinese spirituality, philosophy, Taoism, and so on. The heaven, the sky, the vastness of it. But it is intangible. It does not exist in the same way that consciousness does not exist. Because exist, that word means ex is from the Latin out. Ist to stand. It stands out. Something that exists stands out into this world. It projects itself into this dimension. But the sky does not exist because you can never find it. And the consciousness does not exist in the way that something out here exists. It is the ground for existence. It is the being before the being becomes something. So there is being and there is existence. The being, very different. It sounds almost like an obscure existentialist treatise, being and existence. But that is why people like Jesus use the sky as the closest he could get to explaining what the unconditioned consciousness is. And so when you look at the sky, the equivalent of the vast emptiness or spaciousness of the clear sky is your inner spaciousness or emptiness. And you can never say, it can never become an object for yourself in the same way as I see the table, or there I'm now aware of the consciousness. You can't be aware of the consciousness because the awareness is it. So there's no duality. You can't make it into an object. And that means when you are rooted in that dimension within yourself, that is very different from the form identity, the egoic identity. In the egoic identity, you have made yourself into an object of consciousness, starting with, as we mentioned the other day, the pool of water in which Narcissus saw himself, the ancient myth. And so that was the beginning of human consciousness forming an image of itself and mistaking the mental image for who you are.
If you suffer from time excusitis, the cure is simple. Mind you, it's not necessarily easy, but it is simple. Here it is.
Resolve now never to say, I don't have the time or I'm too busy. Always seek ways to accommodate new challenges in your job or special assignments or extra time with your family. You may find yourself slipping back into the excuse from time to time, but if you do, catch yourself. When you're about to say, I don't have time, change your mind. It often helps to budget your time, just like you might budget your money. Sit down and write out a time plan. Strive to become that busy person that people seek out for special challenges, instead of another victim of excusitis. Remember, everyone has the same amount of time. The difference is in how you use it.
Look, with my health the way it is, I just do what I can to get by. I'm not about to press my luck and give myself a heart attack.
Another prominent form of excusitis is health. This ranges all the way from the chronic, I don't feel good, to the more specific, I've got such and such wrong with me. So-called bad health in 1,000 different forms is used as an excuse for failing to do what a person wants to do, failing to accept greater responsibilities, failing to make more money, failing to achieve success. Millions and millions of people suffer from health problems. But is this really a legitimate excuse in most cases? Consider for a moment the other side of the coin. The people who become fabulously successful in spite of health problems and who didn't use health as an excuse.
Franklin D. Roosevelt was confined to a wheelchair much of the time by polio, but he still served nearly 4 terms as president. John F. Kennedy was hampered by severe and sometimes crippling back pain, but he never publicly complained. Itzhak Perlman, one of the world's great violinists, has to walk with the aid of crutches. Arthur Ashe, the tennis champion, had his athletic career tragically foreshortened by heart trouble, but he went on to great success in business. There are scores of successful people in every walk of life who suffer from diabetes, multiple sclerosis, and other so-called debilitating diseases, but they don't use them as excuses. The point is simply that your physical condition doesn't need to hold you back, and for most people, health is simply no excuse for lack of success. Doctors will tell you that the perfect specimen of the human animal simply doesn't exist. There's something physically wrong with everybody. Many people surrender, in whole or in part, to health excusitis, but successful people don't.
The more you worry about your health, the worse you're going to feel. Not only that, but the more you tell other people about your bad health problems, the worse you're going to make them feel too. You see, whenever you tell someone, I feel rotten today, or I have a headache, you're really telling them, I'm a little bit dead today. And nobody, but nobody, wants to be around a dead person. The plain truth is, there are only 2 people in the world who really want to hear you complain about your health problems. One is your doctor, and the other is your mortician. Nobody else cares. Nobody else wants to hear about your bad health. Now look at the the other side. When you tell someone, I feel great, look what happens. First, you make yourself feel better. Try it right now, and you'll see what I mean. Say out loud, I feel great. Come on now, say it. I feel great. It's impossible to say that and not actually feel better. Second, you make the other person feel better when you tell them how great you feel. And third, you make them feel better toward you. When anyone asks me how I'm feeling, I automatically tell them that I feel so good I can hardly stand it. And if I felt any better, I'd be worried. This makes people laugh, but it also makes me feel better, because how you feel is a product of how you think you feel. So now's the time to cure yourself from the disease of health excusitis forever. Here's how to do it.
The vaccine against health excusitis comes in 4 doses. First, refuse to talk about your health. Talking about your bad health is like putting fertilizer on weeds, and besides that, it bores people. Success-minded people defeat the tendency to complain about their health. Second, refuse to worry about your health. If you have a problem, see your doctor, but don't worry about it. It won't make things any better. It will just make things worse. Third, be genuinely grateful that your health is as good as it is. Remember the old saying, I felt sorry for myself because I had no shoes, until I met a man who had no feet. There's always somebody worse off than you are. So be glad for the good health that you do have, and don't dwell on your health problems. Finally, remind yourself that it's better to wear out than to rust out. Life is yours to enjoy 24 hours a day. Don't waste it. Don't pass up living by thinking yourself into a hospital bed.
People ask, hey man, these kids, man, it's rough dealing with them. That's right. That's right. You think peer pressure happened overnight? We went through peer pressure. I remember as a kid, some guys said, hey Les, me and another fellow named Willie Lowe, we were going home. Hey man, we're going down to Gould's, man, and knock off a grocery store. I said, look here, I don't want no part of that. I'll see y'all later. Say, y'all chicken. I said, that's all right, you say whatever you want. Low star. I'm not chicken, man, don't call me chicken. Then why don't you come? We didn't even ask you to come into place, man. All you do is just drive the car, that's all. I don't know how to drive that good. Well, we're trying to get Les to come. He's chicken. Hey, I'm not driving nothing, all right? Willie, don't care about what they say, man. Leave him alone. You want to go do it? You find somebody else to drive, or you drive yourself. Come on, Willie, man. Pull him, he stop. I ain't chicken. All I got to do is drive? Yeah. I said, Willie, that sounds simple, man. Don't go, man. He went. And the next day we read the newspaper where when they robbed the store, when they came out running to a car, the merchant, the man who owned the store, came out just shooting wildly, and he hit the driver in the head. So peer pressure didn't just start in the 90s or the 80s. It's difficult and it's challenging for kids right now. And it's going to take some easy, simple methods to help bring them out of this madness, this insanity. No. Is it hard? Yes. Let's look at what we've been doing. What has worked? What has not worked? Let's look at where we want to go. What is it that we want to produce? What is it that we want to create for our young people? And as we think about that, start experimenting with different methods and techniques to create and to produce that, and begin to believe that it's possible through our commitment, through our vision, through our determination, our relentlessness. Because of our belief, it's possible that we can reduce the teenage homicide rate, the teenage pregnancy rate, the dropout rate, that it's possible, looking at what kind of world are they going to be in? As we look at the global economy, that as we begin to use our collective will and genius and resources, it's possible that we can create an educational system that not only will test their minds with information and facts and figures, but would teach them how to think and be creative, and what does it mean to be a human being and to value human life, and how do you make relationships work? How do you bounce back from adversity? It's possible that we can give them a curriculum that will give their lives a sense of purpose and direction and meaning, and teach them how to begin to know and operate on a higher level of being, where they become assets to our society rather than liabilities. What if we leave here with that kind of consciousness that it's possible, as opposed to saying we have to write this generation off, that it's possible that we were born for such a time as this and that maybe someone here has the idea or the method or some plan of action or an approach that can resolve many of the problems that we're facing with young people today. Whatever we have to do to save our children, it's worth it.
Now, we bring more to the next week. We bring more to the next month. We bring more to the next year. If you follow this absorb, respond, and reflect. I said to my father, when he was about to turn 76, his 76th birthday. I said, "Dear father of mine, can you imagine what it's going to be like to gather up the last 75 years of your life and invest them in your 76th year?" What a difference of philosophy, rather than just hanging on one more year. Gather up 75 and invest them in the next one. Gather up the last 6 years and invest it in the next year. See, that's so powerful in communication, which we're going to study soon. So powerful. So consider this. 1, the ability to absorb. 2, the ability to respond. 3, the ability to reflect. Here's number 4, develop the ability to act. Take action. Not hasty if it isn't required, but don't lose much time. Here's the time to act. When the idea is hot and the emotion is strong. That's the time to act. You say, "Mr. Rohn, I'd like to have a library like yours." See, if you feel strong about that, what you got to do is get the first book and then get the second book. Before the feeling passes and before the idea gets dim, action pronto. Action immediate. Action as soon as possible. Because if you don't, here's what happens. We call it the law of diminishing intent. We intend to when the idea strikes us. We intend to when the emotion is high. But now if you don't translate that into action fairly soon, now the intent starts to diminish. And a month from now, it's cold. A year from now, can't be found. So act. Set up a discipline when the emotions are high and the idea is strong and clear and powerful. That's the time to set up the discipline. Somebody talks about good health and you're stirred. Say, right, you need to get a book on nutrition. Get the book before the idea passes and before the emotion gets cold. Go for the book. Start the library. Start the process. Fall on the floor. Do some push-ups. Action. Got to take action. Otherwise, the wisdom is wasted. Otherwise, the emotion soon passes. Unless you put it into a disciplined activity. Capture it. Disciplines is called how to capture the emotion and how to capture the wisdom and translate it into equity. Discipline. Now, here's what's important about disciplines. All disciplines affect each other. In fact, here's a good philosophical phrase. Everything affects everything else. Nothing stands alone. Don't be naive in saying, well, this doesn't matter. I'm telling you, everything matters. There are some things that matter more than others, but there isn't anything that doesn't matter. Okay. We all pity the man who says, well, this is the only place I let down. Not true. Key to take home. Every letdown affects the rest of your performance. Every letdown affects the rest. This is part of the educational process on personal development. If you don't take the walk around the block, you probably won't do the apple a day. If you don't do the apple a day, you probably won't start building your library. If you don't build your library, you probably won't keep a journal, and you won't take pictures, and then you won't do this, you won't do wise things with your money, won't do wise things with your time, won't do wise things with your possibilities and relationships, and the first thing you know, 6 years of that accumulated, and we say you have messed up. So the whole key to reversing that process now is to start picking up these disciplines. Now here's the positive side. Every new discipline affects the rest of your disciplines. Every new one affects the rest. That's why action is so important. The least action, the smallest action. Take it. Because when you start accomplishing and the value starts to return from that one action, it'll inspire you to do the next one and the next one and the next one. You start walking around the block, it'll inspire you to get an apple. Get an apple, it'll inspire you to get a book. Get a book, it'll inspire you to get a journal. Get a journal, it'll inspire you to grow, develop some skills. All disciplines affect each other. Every lack affects the rest. Every new affects the rest. The key is to diminish the lack and set up the new. And you've started a whole new life process. Key. Also, one more thought on discipline. Here's the greatest value of discipline. Self-worth, self-esteem. People are teaching self-esteem these days, but they don't connect it to discipline. The least lack of discipline, and it starts to erode our psyche. One of the greatest temptations is to just ease up a little bit, right? The slightest lack of doing your best starts to erode the psyche. Instead of doing your best, doing just a little less than your best. Sure enough, you say, well, it's just going to affect my sales. No, it's going to affect your consciousness. It's going to affect your philosophy. Now you've begun in the slightest way to affect your own philosophy. Here's the problem with the least neglect. Neglect starts as an infection, and if you don't take care of it, it becomes a disease. And one neglect leads to another. And the worst of all, when neglect starts, it diminishes our self-worth, our self-confidence, our self-value. You say, well, how can I get back my self-respect? I'm telling you, you don't have to go to 29 classes. All you have to do is start the smallest discipline that now corresponds to your own philosophy. Like I should, and I could, and I will. No longer will I let neglect stack up on me so that I will have the sorry scenario 6 years from now, giving some excuse instead of celebrating my progress. That's the key to discipline, okay? Let's get kids involved in the least of discipline. One more, and then one more, and then another one, and then another one, and then some more. And the first thing you know, you're starting to weave the tapestry of a disciplined life into which you can pour more wisdom and more attitude and more strong feeling, more faith and more courage. Now you've got something, a vessel in which to put it. And now the equities start to flow. And the early return, I'm telling you, if you'll start this process, the early return will have you so excited. You'll commit yourself to this strategy for the rest of your life. You'll never go back to the old way. Join a new crowd, join a new group. The disciplines to do. Take action.
There are people in your life who are just hanging on to you, pulling you down, negative, don't believe. They just they like dead weight. You gotta let them people fall off, man. You gotta let these people go, because when you get rid of them, then you can orbit to where God wants you to go. So that's what you have to remember about the journey, that you are going to lose people along the way. The whole time you're going to lose a lot of people. So I hope that makes sense to you. You know, when I speak, I don't use paper. You know, I don't write and then talk. I only come if people will allow me to say what's in my heart. You know, I don't like writing it down. I know my life. If you ask me about my life, I don't gotta write that down. I've been living this the whole time, so I speak. I don't want to offend anybody. I speak. I'm kind of loud, you know. See, like the baby, I'm kind of loud, you know. And so that's how I talk the way I talk, because I'm passionate. I want young people to get to where God has planned for you. I want, and that's why I'm so passionate, because you can be great, but you have to make the decision to be great. This is a decision. God gives us the power of choice. You get to decide if you want to work at the bank, if you want to ride a bus, if you want to sail the ocean. You get to make decisions. You've got to make smart decisions for your life, but you have the power. And when you include God, you have the power to be anything. You can be great or you can be nothing. You have to make the decision. If you like being nothing, it's okay. It's okay. I don't want to be with you, but you can make the decision. But what you cannot do is allow your friend next to you who has decided to be nothing to cause you not to be nothing. That's what you got to be careful of. If your friend don't want to do the things that's necessary, you should stop being his friend.
I started out in door-to-door sales. By mistake, but I did, and it changed my life. I admire what you're doing. I want you to understand that. I know what you're doing. I did it for years. You can track back a $500 million net worth for me now to knocking on doors when I was a 21-year-old kid. So those of you guys in this room with a dream to do something great with your life, and you're kind of average and ordinary, maybe you're not the smartest dude in the world or the biggest dude in the world, but you want to do something great with your life, maybe I can be an example of that. Because I know what it's like not to feel great about what you're doing, to doubt whether you're doing this. And I just got to tell you something. I'm an example. This stuff pays off. Okay? So I'm going to take you through some of those keys that I went through. Actually, I started knocking doors kind of by mistake. I got recruited into the financial services business. There's a bunch of these old, stale financial dudes in there. And they kept telling me, hey, our average market, we want married people who own a home who have kids. Middle America for our products, right? And I kept thinking, how come you don't just go where they live? Like, if they have a house and we know the neighborhoods they live in, why don't we just go see these people? Why are we going through calls and all this roundabout easier stuff? Why don't we just knock on their door and say something? Can you guys teach me what to sell? Well, they thought that idea was hilarious, right? Who actually go knock on a door? Like, well, I would. I just wanted to win. How many of you relate to that? You just want to win. I don't care what the hell it took. If it was legal, ethical, and moral, I wanted to win. And so to dick around with me, like, so what's the script? Give me the script. This dude's name was Frank. I won't say his last name because they're all out of business now. But I remember Frank and him laughing. He's like, oh, because we were in the life insurance business. He goes, best thing to say, reverse psychology. Just when you knock on the door, when they open the door, go, you don't want to buy any life insurance, do you? I was stupid enough to think that was the real script. They were dicking around with me at the time. So I went out on that Saturday and knocked on about 200 doors. And everybody that opened the door, this dumbass little kid, me, I'd go, hi, I'm Ed Milet. You don't want to buy any life insurance, do you? And the vast majority would go, no, bam, and shut the door in my face. But one of them, that day, one of them said, matter of fact, I do. We just had some guy here that was trying to rip us off. We are trying to buy some life insurance, but I'm trying to find somebody ethical who can do it. I said, I'm your guy. I literally walked in their house and sold them the insurance that day. But we were in the recruiting business, so a lot of the people that said no to me, I'd say why, and they go, I ain't making enough money to buy any life insurance. I'd say, I'm glad you said that. Are you looking for an opportunity to make secondary income? 27 of them said yes. That Tuesday night at our recruiting meeting, I had 27 freaking guests there to hear about getting recruited because I knocked on 200 doors that day. There were only 30 people at the whole meeting. I had 27 of them. And my career started to transform because I was willing to do the things other people weren't willing to do. The other thing I figured out is I was in the math business. Most of you ain't figured this out yet. That's why you're not making what you can make. At the end of the day, you got to get in a bigger hurry. You got to see more people. You got to run larger numbers. If you're going to get to the top of your field and recruit more people, sell more people, you got to see more people. The flat matter is this is a competitive sport you're in. It may not feel like a sport, it's a sport. And for those of you that do more reps, win. More contacts, win. See more people, win. Y'all with me on that? Say yes. Yeah. See, you probably thought I was going to give you some like fluffy, I don't know nothing about selling speech. You got to run larger numbers, man. Hey, sister, you aren't running big enough numbers. You want to get to the big time? You want to get to the top of what you're doing? You got to run more numbers, see more people, recruit more people, and sell more people. Okay, that's the bottom line. You don't start to see more people, I'm going to smoke you. If I knock 200 a day and you knock 50, if I see 500 and you see 5, I don't care how good you think your script is, how great you are, how persuasive you are. You take a dude like me, I will smoke you.
It's possible you can get what you want. It's necessary. If you want it, you got to go into action. You got to be willing to experiment. You got to be willing to fail and to succeed. You got to be willing to form and to develop new relationships. It's you. It's on you. You got to make that happen. Nobody's going to bring it to you on a silver platter and say, here's your dream manifested. No, it's hard. Yes, it's hard. It's difficult. Yes, right. And it's worth it.